This is the WWE NXT April 1st, 2025 full show results video. Stephanie Vaquer makes her entrance and gets in the ring with Ava Raine, and Raine gets on the mic and says Stephanie has shown everyone why she's La Primera ever since she walked into NXT, and retaining both her titles in separate matches last week shows you just how talented she is. However, the women's division is so deep that it's not fair for her to hold both titles alone, so she's going to be relinquishing the WWE Women's North American Championship. A new champion will be decided at Stand and Deliver in a 6-woman ladder match, and qualifiers start tonight. Vaquer gets on the mic and says she understands it's not a popular decision, but NXT has given her opportunities and she wants to give everyone else the same opportunities and push the division without stopping, so she's giving the North American Championship up under one condition: she gets to choose her challenger for the NXT Women's Championship at Stand and Deliver. Jordynne Grace makes her entrance and she apologizes for interrupting and says she's so happy to hear she gets to pick her opponent, because with Jada Parker out of the picture they can focus on the match that's really important for the first time ever on NXT's biggest stage, the Juggernaut vs La Primera. Then comes Jada Parker and she claims she's not out of the picture, and if Grace had just stayed on the ground where she left her last week she'd have won the title. It was this close and Stephanie knows it, but go ahead and call the shot. Jordynne says Jada fumbled her shot and maybe she doesn't understand how titles work because she's never had one before, but she goes to back of the line. Stephanie tells them to work it out and they brawl. Back body drop puts Parker onto the apron, security breaks them up but Grace starts throwing dudes around. Oba Femi is interviewed on his way to the building and says he's the champion, and Trick answers to him, not the other way around. And tonight he's going to find out the hard way why you don't call out the ruler. Back from the commercial, Ariana Grace tells the locker room she's not interested in being in a ladder match qualifier because it seems too dangerous, and the rest of the locker room bickers about who deserves it. Then we saw NXT Women's North American Championship qualifying match between Lash Legend vs Zarya. Legend with a waistlock takedown, test of strength offered and accepted. Zarya fights out of an attempt to push her down but Lash suplexes her for a cover for one. Zarya locks in a guillotine choke after, but Lash counters by lifting her and setting her down on the apron. Zarya with a slingshot sunset flip for two, then Legend floats over, scoop and a slam. Back from the commercial, Legend puts her in an Argentine backbreaker rack and shakes her in. Zarya slips out, off the ropes, both women go for lariats and end up down and out. Back-to-back backbreaker hold from Legend, Zarya sides out, off the ropes, sidestep the pump kick, spear connects. Drawing Lash up, Fireman's Carry and Zarya won the match by pinfall with the F5, qualifying for the ladder match for the vacant NXT Women's North American Championship at Stand and Deliver. Yashiki Inamura and Josh Briggs are chatting about their tag title intentions when Wesley and company roll up to tell them to lower their expectations. Briggs and Lee bicker back and forth and Inamura steps up and says he used to like Wes and challenges him to a match tonight. Lee accepts and tells him to be ready to be disappointed. Back from the commercial, Kelani Jordan is chatting with Ava Raine about how perfect the ladder match is for her. Roxanne Perez rolls up to say actually no, it's perfect for her and she's gonna become the first woman to hold every available title in NXT. They go back and forth, Ava steps in and tells them they're fighting in a qualifier tonight. D'Angelo family talk about Dark State. Dion Lennox first, he came in looking like a bookworm but he's got a temper and he broke a teammate's jaw in college sports and has several degrees. Osiris Griffin is next, who also broke a teammate's bones in college. Cutler James is next, an all-American amateur wrestler who likes to break his opponent's wills. The last guy, Saquon Sugars, he turned Harvard down and he has a talent for getting people to listen to him and feel like they've been best friends forever before he dips and moves on. Stax and the Don go back and forth about whether to go after them now, and Tony reminds him the last plan he had didn't work out so well and he needs him to trust him. Channing says he trusts him and Tony says he's gonna review the intel and everyone should keep their phones on. Hank and Tank are backstage wearing Pretty Deadly style gear and being skeptical about it. Pretty Deadly are there and they make the case that to be stars, you gotta look like stars. You can't just say the honk honk, you gotta feel the honk honk. No Quarter Catch crew roll up and tell them they look like they're about to get their asses kicked, and they take the crop tops off and storm off. The next match happened between Hank and Tank versus No Quarter Catch crew, and the result of this match was No Quarter Catch crew defeated Hank and Tank by pinfall with the F5 DDT combination on Tank Ledger. Back from commercial, Trick Williams makes his entrance and gets on the mic and says last week he called Oba Femi out in this very ring and he hasn't heard from him since. He fought for this, sacrificed for this, lost a brother for this. Every Tuesday this network turns into the TW because he's the guy, and all that success comes at a cost. Then comes J-Evon Evans and Trick tells him not to interrupt. He knows he's upset, but that's collateral damage. J-Evon says he finally understands Trick and asks when he knew when it was his time. This time last year, Trick was where he was, and then when he won the title he became the golden child, and just like him, Evans wants that #1 spot. The difference is he doesn't need to break out of anybody's shadow to get to that spot, and he's ready right now. Trick says J-Evon is in his shadow right now and says he can't relate, and carrying the title is a different ballgame from winning, and J-Evon can't hold it the way he could, because he's one-on-one. J-Evon wipes some spit off his face and tells Trick that he doesn't know who the hell he is. He's not Trick Williams, he's Carmelo Hayes, and that gets Trick's dander up, and Evans calls him a hypocrite trying to water him down to make himself feel better, but Evans has done something nobody else has done and drop Obafemi. Then comes Obafemi and he tells J-Evon to say all that nonsense to his face, and Mock congratulates him for his lucky shot. Evans tells him to stop playing like he doesn't have his number, and all he needed at deadline was one more second to change history, and Oba wouldn't have beat Trick because he would have. Trick boos and tells him better luck next year, but Femi tells him to shut up, he's the champion. He tells Evans he sees a small boy with dreams, and while he might be the future, he lives in the present, and the now belongs to Obafemi. Williams tells J-Evon to excuse himself, but he steps up instead and Femi holds him back. Oba says if Trick spent less time talking he might still be champion, and he sees that both of them want title matches. Enter Ava Rain and she says she's seen this before and there's only one way for it to end: Obafemi versus Trick Williams versus J-Evon Evans in a triple threat at Stand and Deliver. Trick calls off and drops Evans with a punch. He and Oba brawl and the ruler knocks him out of the ring with a lariat. The lights go down and the dark state is here, and they jump the rails and attack Oba to beat him down. The lights come back and they've got Trick surrounded and they take him out, too. Back from the commercial, Andre Chase is getting examined and the medic sends him home, asking if he has anybody to help him out. He says no, but Cale Dixon and Uriah Connors roll up to help him home, and he finally admits they're alright. Jordan Grace and Jada Parker come brawling wild through backstage outside that door. Hank and Tank run into Fraxium, and Axiom laments not having a friendship like Hank and Tank do in Swipe Right, who are two actual fetuses they scraped out of the indies to work the new Evolve Roll Up. They say that Fraxium are like their heart is and set up a match before talking about how hot Roxanne Perez is. Then we saw a NXT Women's North American Championship qualifying match between Kelani Jordan versus Roxanne Perez, and the result of this match was Kelani Jordan defeated Roxanne Perez by pinfall with the split-legged moonsault. Stevie Turner and Robert Stone are in Ava Rain's office chatting about stuff when Ava cuts them off to say Dark State is her focus, and she books a trios relevos increables between any three of Dark State and the main event trio from Stand and Deliver: Femi, Williams, and Evans. In the main event of the show, we saw a match between Ricky Saints versus Shawn Spears for the NXT North American Championship, and the result of this match was Ricky Saints defeated Shawn Spears by pinfall with Rochambeau, becoming your new NXT North American Champion. Post-match, All Ego Ethan Page appears and hits Twisted Grin on Saints, holding the title up over his fallen body, and the show goes off the air. How much you would rate this week's NXT show? Tell me in the comments, and thanks for the watching.